welcome. This is another great day, and we are very so excited to have you join us, especially after the holidays, Eid al-Fitr. And for all of our friends and Muslim audience, we'd love to say thank you so very much for being here with us, and we'd love to say thank you so very much for hanging on. This is Enterprise Morning, reaching you from Enterprise Television. I am Henry. We'll be starting off today with our newspaper headlines, and right after that, in a jiffy would be our main conversation also for today. But please do well to be part of what we do. You can always find and reach us at enterprisetvnews.com. You may equally like, comment, and follow us on all our social media platforms at Enterprise TV7. Also honored to have with us joining us from Saitama in Japan, John Akirili. He is a public affairs analyst. Good morning to you, John, and thank you so very much for joining us.
Good morning, my brother. Good morning to viewers all over the globe. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so very much. I'd love to believe you guys didn't have no holidays there, isn't it, in Japan?
Well, we don't observe such a feature here.
All right,
we don't have large population of Muslims.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you so very much once more. So right here in our studios, we have Barrister Van Sufeli, legal practitioner and public affairs analyst. Thank you so very much for being here.
My pleasure.
We do appreciate you.
Thank you.
All right, people, we'll be starting off in a bit with our newspaper headlines today. And the first on our desk is the Daily Trust newspaper. And still on the happenings in the south of Nigeria, Edo State to be precise, Urumi killing. The DSS has arrested 2 principal suspects, Edo government says. And also we have some writers here. Kano government reiterates call for justice, victims' right to freedom of movement violated, and that's coming from NHRC. I'd love to start with you, John Kerele. I don't know. We'd love to, of course, still condemn the gruesome killing of the 16 hunters in Urumi. But of course, would call right now, lots of things is coming to mind. The Deborah case in Maiduguri, the people are still shouting freedom and calling for what was done to the people who gruesomely killed the 16 should equally be made possible for Deborah. I'd love you to speak on this particular matter.
Thank you for having me. I think first, let me say happy Fitr to our Muslim brothers all over the world. It will be a good celebration for them and for all of us. On this issue of the gruesome killing, I think personally I want to condemn that in strong terms. However, this also shows the incompetence on the government part as to how past issues have been handled. I keep saying it for anybody who cares to listen. The government must be seen as not a sided government. It's not decided, oh, this is the northern president, and so all that they do should favor the northern person. Now is the southern president. We should come to a place where when we bring up issues, let's bring up facts and figures, and let's use the same spade, all across board, irrespective of your political alignment or your religious alignment or your geographical location. Once a law is set, if you have gone against the law, face the consequences. And it is on that principle of fair justice and fairness that everybody should be treated with the same gloves. Not that in the case of the northern person, you have a softer glove, and in the case of the southern person, you have a hammer glove. For me, that also shows to what the previous administration and past government over the years on how they've been able to handle this issue. Now, in this case, people are bringing up the sentiment against that of Deborah's case. But for me, 2 wrongs never makes a right. And so for me, it's also a wake-up call to the government that when issues like this come up, it should be seen to have been treated in a plain and transparent manner, and let the law be universal to all. Since we are all Nigerians, and we have a constitution that guides all of us, out of your region, except you are not a Nigerian. But as far as you're a Nigerian and you are in the geographical location of the country called Nigeria, the law of Nigeria should take its course on everybody, and nobody should be seen to be favored when it comes to justice and judgment.
Very, very true. Barrister Van Sufeli, I know you had had the opportunity in so many platforms to have talked about this particular matter. It's often said that absence of the rule of law gives birth to jungle justice.
Yeah.
Now, the axes, the Urumi axes, have been It's been chaos all through since this gruesome issues happened, but that hasn't stopped the proliferation of kidnappers in that particular region. How do you think a society can survive when there is a constant absence of the rule of law, which obviously leads to issues like this, which might be recurrent in the future?
Yeah, this whole thing boils down to the lack of proactive surveillance from the security agencies. Okay, a place that is that volatile ordinarily should have instigated an increase in surveillance and security presence. You understand? To ensure that there is no breakdown of law and order. Okay, we've seen cases where videos flying out all over the place where headsmen will put people's cassava, cut it into pieces,
And feed their livestock.
And all that. And in one of those videos, because I understand Hausa, so I heard one of them saying that they have paid the leaders of the community. They have seen the leaders of the community so they can do whatever they want to do. And the leaders, and all that. So now those crops belongs to people. It is sometimes their only means of sustenance. Now this is someone harvesting it, okay? The labor that has gone into the planting, clearing and all that. It's a lot of work. So somebody come and pulls it off, okay? Then that is not the reason why people should also engage in jungle justice. My NGO there, Cardinal Advocacy Center, one of our objective is to enlighten people against jungle justice, and sometimes to practically dissuade people from they will tell you that if you involve the police will free them,
Which is a fact.
So it's a fact.
Yes.
because they are entitled to bail when they are arrested and they are prosecuted. Okay, their fundamental right will kick in. Okay, so the fact that they're entitled to bail does not mean then that jungle justice should not be the yardstick to determine issues of due process of law. Due process of law, if someone has committed an offense, you don't expect the police to, arrest the person and kill the person. Because what the public expect is that the police should arrest them and kill them.
Really?
Yeah, because when they arraign them and they grant them bail, and they finally succeed in perfecting their bail, and they are released temporarily to go face their charges in court, the public, they are angry that the police have released them, that the police have collected money, or that the court have collected money, that very soon they will free all of them. Okay, sometimes the cases go on, they are convicted, they are asked to go and serve prison terms and all that. The public don't want to hear all those ones. They want them instantly killed. And any society that is screwed that way, now anytime there's an allegation, the person must be killed, then we're going to come to a point where it's going to get to every house. Okay? Because allegation itself is not enough, okay, to merit that punishment. There must be a process of law. But the impatience of these people, okay, sometimes the legal system is also too slow. Sometimes this compromise. We shouldn't shy away from that. Sometimes these people actually pay police and they are free, truly, like the public will say. Yeah. You understand? But that's not the reason we shouldn't go through the due process of law.
Because it's very important that we talk about these issues. They are very so sensitive. On social media, a lady was alleging that her village is no longer in existence in Igatu or so in Benue State.
Agatu.
Agatu. Yes, that when the mother died, it was a Herculean task for them to bury her mother. And for some time now, no one has been to the village. And this is a recurrent issue. And the question is, how do we finally put an end to this matter? John, do you think the president has got the gusto to make this thing come to an end? Does he have that political will of bringing this to an end, despite the fact that, of course, he's hoping for 2027 and the northern part of Nigeria might give him that big vote?
My brother, the only solution that I feel to Nigeria's problem and predicament is accountability and transparency. don't forget that the people who have committed this act, if you ask them questions, they have their own side of the story to tell. Don't forget that the issue of trust being raped over time severally leads to mistrust. And that is one thing that the Nigerian security apparatus is failing to understand. The public do not trust you. But of trust. Is it that the herdsmen have paid the village head? Who is the village head in particular that received the money? What was the money meant for? Is it total buying of the farmland and its farm produce? These are many more questions that have not been answered. And if all these questions have been answered, then the issue of communication comes in, where the village head must have invited all the farmers to tell them that the herdsmen have bought this farmland for this farm season, and this is the amount they have paid to each farmer. In that case, you know that they have bought your crops for that year. Do you understand? In that case, you are getting the money for the crops you have planted. And I don't think at that time, when you bring your cows to the farmland to eat and feed your cows, the farmers will not have eyebrows. Why? Because you have bought the farm outrightly for that year, and even the farm produce. And so the farmers get their money. The herders can feed their farms. So that talks about the issue of transparency, accountability, and mistrust that has been over time. And this has not been, ironed out. And this will also linger on. And this also leads to the issue of reprisal attack. Oh, it is now that they are lynching our people, we also lynch their people. And for me, what Nigerians should see in the height of all this is to call out the ineffective government, either at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level, even in the villages, the village head. That's why you have the Minister of Chieftaincies. So the obas and chieftaincies people, the chiefs, what is it that they are doing? Because all of these things happen in the villages, and the villages have village heads. And so that is where the issue of, consultation comes in. Now, my brother, in this new era and age, nobody in the animal husbandry industry moves cow from one farm to another farm. And that's why I've said that when there are problems, there are traditional way of doing things, but we should advance in things. And so the government should probably set up a ministry of livestock, which they have done. In that regard, have different regions of the country where you can have ranches. In that regard, once ranches are created, what you can now do next is that some of these farmers can now be the one that will supply feeds to these ranches. In that case, it's a win for the farmers. They can produce feed for cows, they can sell to the ranches. It's a win for the herders. They can breed more healthy cow that can even give us good milk, and that's everybody is happy. The community and the ecological environment of the village is preserved. The farmers are happy. The herders are happy. That will become a more productive environment for all of us to thrive in. But in a case where the government, pretend as if they are sleeping, let me borrow the word of our former president, President Jonathan. When the president pretend as if they are sleeping, they know all of these things and they know what to do. So in this case, if you have said there should be a law that you cannot be taking your cow to another person's farmland, it is ambiguous. It is irritating. How would you till a land for over a year? You plant your seed, you water your seed, you do your irrigation. I've been involved in farming before, and I know what it takes to get your crops to that harvest position. And when you are counting down to harvest your crops, you hear that you go to the farm and you see cows have destroyed every other thing. It's heartbroken.
Very, very
and then the
sad,
government is not even also supporting these farmers. Yeah. So for me, what president should do, one is to set up a committee that can mediate between the herders and the farmers. Come to a round table, have discussions, let everybody bring out their points, and look at ways that we can, help solve this issue so that it can be peaceful coexistence of farmers and herders, because we need food in the farm and we also need meat to eat.
Very, very true. We need meat to eat, but of course not endangered species. In a world where climate change is the order of the day and saving endangered species is equally very important, while one would wonder why do we still have hunters going around and ensuring that species go to extinct. That's one other area that I would love us to take a look at. But let's look at the Guardian newspaper for today. On the very top strip here, I feel depressed over Rivers emergency. Fubara, that's what he's talking about. Barrister Vansufeli. I know just before we got into a messy part of this particular situation in River State, you had always criticized the legal advice given to Fubara and how that he had not followed it through. I remember so very well you talked about why he had to withdraw the case against and all of that. Now, with the situation Fubara is in now, how bad is it legally? And how can he possibly save himself?
It's really very bad because the state have been plunged into illegality. First, the state of emergency was not well concocted. The question I would like to raise is, under Section 305 of the 1999 Constitution, the condition order under which a state of emergency is desired were not met at all. Because if you look at it, it's not just political tension, war, outbreak of disease, and all that. My question to the president this morning is, if what happened that led to this declaration of emergency had to do with an outbreak of disease, would he have removed the governor?
So you mean the pipeline is not as bad as
no, there was Rivers was not under any kind of Bayelsa. There was a pipeline vandalization and explosion in Bayelsa. So why didn't he sack the Bayelsa governor? Okay. So, and to say that, to interpret the pronouncements or expressions of the governor to mean that he's in cahoots with the criminals was unfortunate, because that's an afterthought. Okay. And at the end of the day, the state have been plunged into illegality, because first, the president have no right to remove, even if that explosion was the issue on ground that instigated the state of emergency, the president need not remove the governor. All he needed to do is to deploy the army against those blowing up the pipeline, deploy security against them, civil defense and all the security apparatus in that jurisdiction, deploy it to quell sin. That's what he's supposed to do. So for Bara to say he's depressed, it calls for depression, really, because now you have one administrator there who took an oath on a non-existent law in the country. How would you be sworn in without a law in a country to go and administer a state?
But how was it done during Olusegun Obasanjo with the Plateau and the Ekiti?
The same illegality. Okay? The same illegality. And the President Tinubu don't even have some level of glory, because they did a sham of swearing in. Obasanjo only just ordered administrator to go and resume. You understand? Either both of them are illegal. You understand? It has no basis in law, because now he's dissolving agencies and departments of government and ministries. These are illegality. I wonder why he was even allowed into Rivers State. Because I know Rivers State, they ought not to even allow him, because as he is now, he's not a byproduct. His activities is not a byproduct of law. It's not constitutional. He need not be there. He need not be obeyed. There is no law that says that man should be obeyed, because his existence there is illegal. His coming there is illegal. Everything about him is illegal. You can't put something on nothing and expect it to stand. It will collapse. So he does not even have mandate. That's one. Two, he doesn't have the morals to even dispense. And then he's talking about that he came to restore what exactly?
Peace.
Yes, to restore peace. What was the issue that was ongoing that is coming to and he came to restore peace under what law? You understand? So it's an unfortunate decision that was taken. But the worrisome part of it is that Attorney General of the Federation that called a press conference to defend indefensible. The Attorney General suffers from what I call partisan obscurantism.
And that means what?
Yeah, what it means is your inability to express reason professionally because of your partisanship with the government. So your legal reason is blurred completely because
Does that come with a consequence?
it should come with consequence. You know, it should come with consequence because the Attorney General of the Federation, there should be a petition against him to the NJC.
And who should do that?
Any citizen of the country can petition him to the NJC and say that what he did was a misrepresentation to law. That is what happened to Anduaka when he was Attorney General of the Federation, when he said that the president can administer Nigeria from anywhere in the world during the Ibori saga and the rest of that. Okay, and what happened to him? There was a petition against him to the NJC, and he was derobed of his SAN. The same thing should apply to this. The same thing should apply because he's not one of the professional responsibility of the lawyer. We're taught in our professional ethics is that you must be able to guide your client within the bounds of law. So when you lose that threshold, you can be disciplined for such, or you mislead, because what he's doing now is misleading the president to believing that the president is doing the right thing, whereas he's doing the wrong thing. So I think that is an issue that must be explored. A
Very, very
citizen
well.
must put a petition up.
Yes, very, very, very true. John, I want to ask you this. It's often said that the democracy is what we say it is. Most often, we're asked to domesticate our democracy. As it stands today, Rivers State is peaceful with Ibas. He has restored peace. There aren't any sort of vandalisms for some time now. And people have gone back to their normal business. He has started constructing roads that were stopped as a result of the fiasco. So don't you think the 6 months is a right step in the right direction? You know, while we wait for things to settle down and possibly allow what should be to happen?
I don't think anything will happen after the next 6 months. The only difference I would have seen is that maybe there will be a continuation of the federal government allocation released to the River State after the next 6 months. Maybe the alleged impeachment of the governor, Fubara, will still continue. Maybe, you know, some of these things are some of the key issues that led to the illegal action of Mr. President of suspending both the governor and the House of Assembly members, because these are the two warring factions. But for me, I'm not seeing any reconciliatory move. I think for Mr. President, he felt state of emergency would douse the tension. Yes, it would douse the tension. However, we'll still come back to the bane of the problem, which I'm not seeing it being addressed. And that's why I said in my earlier submissions that I don't see, you know, peace and calmness coming back to Rivers after the 6 months, because we are not seeing anything in terms of the process that will lead to that peace after 6 months. If you look at it now, we're almost a month into the 6 months, remaining 5 months to go. And so for me, I expect that by this time, the warring faction, that's the 27 lawmakers that have been suspended, the governor that have been suspended, would have been having some kind of interactions, and then there'll be kind of negotiation between both parties as to, you give us our allocated funds and then we will not impeach you. And if these two things can be put on black and white, I think both parties can now, we can have a fresh breath that after the next month of this sole administrator, then peace and normalcy can return back to Rivers State. But aside from that, I think these two fighters are still at loggerhead. And even after 6 months is, you know, finished, we might not see anything. Don't forget also, there's a possibility that this 6 months can turn to a year. It can be elongated. Mark my word, when 6 months comes and there's no peace in sight, Mr. President can also elongate another 6 months. And maybe that's how this tenure of Fubara might be finished in 6 months or so administratorship, you know, anchoring the states proceedings. That's what I see.
Yes, very true. As much as we do not hope and desire that, because that is anti-democracy, of course. But let's take a look at other issues here. This course may take 11 years, 1.4 trillion naira to bridge 7.2 million metering gap. Barrister Vanso Feli. But our president has said that it's his desires to build a $1 trillion economy. And the question is, how can one build a $1 trillion economy without electricity, without power? We're still battling metering of all things, and it's saying we need 11 years to make that happen.
Well, instead of we focus on generation and distribution, because we have problem with generation, we also have problem with distribution of electricity. Okay. Now you are talking about a $1 trillion economy without electricity. It's impossible. It's impossible because you cannot achieve that economically without small and medium scale businesses, which is grounded as we speak. A lot of the middle class that are engaged in small scale businesses have all shut down and traveled abroad. Okay? Now, if you go to an average restaurant to eat, whatever it is you are eating as a meal, running costs, fuel, all the cost of living have been factored into it. At the end of the day, it's so expensive. What you are eating have been overrun by cost of living. So, businesses that are still surviving in the country will have to rely on foreign partnership, either by diaspora remittances or something. So, is he going to build that $1 trillion? Is it $1 trillion economy?
$1 trillion economy. So
with diaspora remittances, or is the federal government going to sponsor more people to leave the country so that they can get a return? Because the only thing sustaining this country now is the very rich that have investments like banks and industries that are involved in necessities. Okay, those are the. Then the middle class are completely gone. The poor, they are gone. Okay. Then the other window is diaspora remittance. That's the other window. Every other thing is completely shut down. Okay. So now the president did not give details as to how he's going to build this. What is the investment on education that will bring that return? What is the investment in human capital development that will bring that return? Okay, is it the school loan? Is it the loan they are giving to students? What exactly? See, because you need to, there's cause and effect to everything. To everything, there's cause and effect. And the cause comes before the effect. Okay, so what is the cause now that has been put in place that will bring that effect? That's the question you need to ask, because we are talking about improving infrastructure. What have this government put on the ground that will give us the effect that will boost infrastructural development? For human capital, then nobody's even talking about that, because whether the schools are functioning or not, it's just the private universities and maybe private higher institutions that are preparing some persons. Okay, and those persons that are being prepared in the private schools, when they come out, the country is a misfit for them.
And they might even leave.
No, they will leave now. They are preparing them to leave. You know, there's a way you outgrow a country. A lot of people have outgrown this country. The people you see here are just here for the love of countryhood. So many people that have opportunities to leave that have not left. It's for the love of countryhood. Many persons have outgrown the country. A country where you don't have power supply, you don't have electricity, how do you cope? It's no longer, nowhere in the world where you're talking about electricity. Even in African countries, okay? So you cannot have a $1 trillion economy without proper plan. It's a wrong projection. I can't find, maybe it's talking about the seaports and maybe the federal government installations that they generate money from. The seaports, tax.
Well, he said he would widen the tax gap.
Yeah, I think that is what I think that's what he's. I think that is what he's. That's where his mind is on the revenue collection of the federal government from the seaport to tax or visa applications from other, because now the Lebanese, the Indians, and the Chinese are the ones coming in. And if you notice, most of the businesses they are establishing, they are now extractive businesses. They are not businesses that want to employ people here for a long time. They are not producing things that they have come to stay. Most of the things they are doing now is raw materials. Raw materials, they want to take it, you know. And if you have an economy that's that way, you are pushing for an economy that will go into extinction. If the idea is not to come and set up factory, they are just here to come and extract what you have and take it, and you are giving them licenses to do all that. I think the federal government should grant licenses to genuine business people who want to set up factories and employ people, as against those ones that are coming to take precious stones, precious stones and the rest of our mineral resources. Their offices are not here. They are in hotels with briefcases, scouting for what can be taken away. That is not the kind of people we should give licenses to. We should give licenses to people that want to build refinery here, people that want to build factories here and employ people here, people that want to build car manufacturing or coupling, whatever, here. Those are the people we should be giving licenses to, not people who. Some of the conditions to get these licenses, they should have a plant, okay, a land, a station with equipment to a certain level before they get license. We will put all those conditions in place. If we don't do that, just give people license and they will mess up this country. This country will be shut down.
Very, very true. John, my last question, just before we let us leave for this particular segment. The Bola Ahmed Tinubu experience is synonymous to the story of the king that was dancing naked in the market square, thinking he was wearing a magnificent robe, only for the lieutenants to keep telling him that he is wearing a magnificent robe, not knowing that he is dancing naked. Do you think that the lieutenants around the presidency are those really making this work for the president very difficult? Because they see the truth, but they wouldn't tell him. How do we grow a $1 trillion economy when our small, medium, and large-scale entrepreneurs do not have enough electricity or power to make that happen?
Thank you very much. I think the kind of polity that we have in Nigeria is such that for you to be in power, you need to have a lot of sycophants around you. And these sycophants are like those ones when you go to a party, the praise singers. They keep singing your praise. And then that you are doing well, we are behind you, you are doing well. They are doing that because of their own personal interests and because of the paycheck that they get. And then you should take a look at the country by yourself holistically. You know, there's nothing stopping the president from going to any state on a normal visit and then hear the people yourself. The president can hear Nigerians himself. And when people speak, don't always think that those voices are the voice of the opposition. The facts and figures are in for themselves. Now, what is the index of ease of doing business in Nigeria today? These are things that you should check for yourself. And then you can ask yourself, where are we 4 years ago? Where are we 3 years ago? Where are we 7 years ago? Where are we now? Look at the parameters and ask yourself, are we really moving forward? How many new businesses were incorporated that are functional in the past 4 years? How many new businesses do we have now? SMEs in the last 4 years that have been, incorporated, are they still in existence till now? These are, raw facts that can give you a leadway. Either you are making progress or you are not making progress. Every now and then, you have people who always tell you that we are doing well, the economy is booming, investors are coming in. But I ask a question. When you say investors are coming in, what is the worth of the investment? What job will that investment create? Not on paper, in reality. So my question to them now is, how many investors have come into this country since this administration started? What is the worth of that investment? And how many jobs have been created? Now, when we look at all of these figures, you see that they are just people who are to make headlines. It does not trickle down to the real effect. People are not gainfully employed. So go and check your unemployment rate. Is it increasing or decreasing? And then you now ask yourself, so the investors and investors that came in, the jobs that have been created, where are those jobs created? Is it in real life or in fiction? So these are some of the things that people should look. Now, if you have an opposition that's always criticizing the government, I think it's a wake-up call for the government to look at what they are saying and see how they can do it. An example of that is the case of power generation. In this age and time, that Nigeria will still, we have dam that had issue the last time. I don't think now that the government is thinking of creating a new dam. I don't think so. The one that is there, how effective is the dam? The maintenance culture of the dam, the contract, the how much was released for it. Are we really checking all of these things? Because if you say you want to build a $1 trillion economy without light, my brother, you're only fooling yourself, if not Nigerians. And so for me, if truly want to do this thing, the first thing is highly industrialized economy. And what do I mean? I mean regional revitalization. And let's look at the regions of Nigeria. How many regions? We have about 6 regions. So what is it that these regions have? Call your governors and sit them down. Let the governors call their traditional rulers and let's sell tourism first. Now, how do we sell tourism? We have a security problem. And so we must make sure that personal security is improved drastically. When your people, when your borders is secure, the country is secure, you can now tell each governor to boost tourism in their state. The 36 states have very tourist that people can always go to. With this, you generate enough money. You create jobs all across the 704 local governments, because 1 out of every 3 local governments have a tourist attraction center that can generate money for them and jobs. That is a constant power. That's a constant job creation. That is a constant flow of money. People are coming in, people are going out. That also increase the economic value of the villages. Why? Because there'll be hotels, there'll be rooms, there'll be recreational facilities around those areas. And then you are creating jobs for even logistics owners. You are creating jobs for, drivers that will be moving people from one location to another location. So if we only have purposeful leaders who can sit down and say to themselves, what do we have in our state? And how can we use our state to generate more money using tourism as one of those many options that is available for us? But we have people who, just go out to France, jet on holiday, come back, and do not have effects on the people that they are governing. It's really a sad story for me. $1 trillion economy, I think time will tell if truly we get that or not.
Very, very true. Time will tell if we would get that or not. And safe to say that other nations have made this possible. Of course, we might not go toe to toe with China, but at least let's learn 1 or 2 from them. Between 2022 January and 2024 January, in 2 years, China elevated 10 million of its citizens to a $1 million mark. Now, these are entrepreneurs. And the question is, they would not have done that if there weren't good enough policies to make that possible. We can learn from that if really we are intentional about doing that. Thank you so very much, gentlemen. And just to let you know, both will be here to take us on our main conversation. That is when we return. Senator Natasha defies rally ban, alleges assassination plot. That in a bit, still Enterprise morning. Please don't go away.